I went over this with you when we talked about Jake Paul, Nate Robinson, which was on the undercard. I think it was maybe in the co-main to the Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. exhibition. It wasn't for me. There were some funny moments to the knockout and the way people sort of memed it out, but in general, not my favorite thing. And then Logan Paul, we talked about it, having this exhibition with Mayweather, blah, blah, blah. I would like to not talk about the Pauls, but at this point, it's just not not possible.
Let Brendan handle it, Luke. Please, let Brendan handle it.
So let's set this up. So yesterday, on social media, I have them muted, but I kept seeing people retweeting it in my mentions with the URL kind of empty. And I see that Jake Paul was in the back of a car. He has a camera, either crew or buddy with him. And they drive by a place that is very familiar to you and me, at least by name. They drive by the Malka Studios in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah,
why is
Malka
that relevant?
West, out there in Santa Monica, yeah.
Santa Monica, yeah. I've been there one time. Why is that relevant? Well, Malka makes this show. They make Food Truck Diaries. They make Below the Belt. They do a lot of things, and
all
they
the
do
smoke.
them.
Yeah,
Say
all
what?
the smoke, big show.
All the smoke. Yeah. They do all the smoke. I mean, they do a lot of different shows. And you see it here. He drives by and calls Dillon Danis, Conor McGregor's bitch, several P words, and then begs his driver to get away before anything bad could happen to him, which is all too priceless. But it must have been that Dillon Danis was doing a Food Truck Diaries with Brendan, is my only guess, and that this ended up happening. Okay. So then
it was Big Brown and Big Yellow Stain hanging out, Luke. It was fantastic.
So then Jake Paul puts out a I want to fight Conor McGregor thing, 50 million, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, how did we get here, Brian? How did we get to a place where these two bozos, and I looked up why at least Logan is popular. He was a Vine star like Lele Pons, which, the unfunniest people on earth. And it turned into sort of a YouTube thing, and he hosts a podcast that is, I'm guessing the audience there are, what would you call them? People who had classes down by the boiler room in high school. That's sort of the demo. But whatever the case, they have turned it into a large enough audience at this point, and here they are, wall to wall, on boxing sites, on MMA sites. We're starting our effing show talking about them. What happened, BC?
Wow, and you're right, because when we put out the teasers of the topics we would be talking about this week when the Morning Combat Show first got, the link was posted on YouTube, we already got barraged with, you guys serious? It's Canelo Fight Week, there's a big UFC show, and you're talking about the damn Pauls, because they've completely, taken over. They've made their move. They may have the sensibility of a man living in a van down by the river, Luke, but they understand today's culture. And they are really trying to be this role of full-on professional troll. Only now they're going after our own war combat heroes. And it's working. It's working, Luke, because whether you want to throw up or not, your follow-up response is typically, all right, F this. I need to see this kid get knocked out. And that's what they're going for. It's working. But if you want to know how we specifically got here, Luke, this smells like an inside job, okay? Big Brown has Logan Paul on his show this past week, which doing big ratings, fun interview, getting ready for the Floyd fight. And he mentions in there how he's boys with the Pauls and all that, and Thick Boy Society or whatever you want to go with that. And then Luke suddenly, Jake just happens to know that Dillon Danis is there. I smell an inside job, all right?
Despite the fact that he is one of our Showtime brethren, you love taking passive-aggressive shots at Brendan. Have you noticed that?
Come on, if brothers from the same mother who cashes their paychecks can't sling at each other, who can, Luke, okay?
It's a fair point. But it raises a couple of questions. It doesn't beg the question, because that's not what beg the question means, which we had a debate about. But it does raise, I think, two really interesting questions for me, BC. First, if they even tried something like this in any other sport, it would fall flat on its face. I mean, it would be not merely a circus. It would be almost bizarre, right? It'd be like these Trump lawsuits that keep getting thrown out, and the judges look at them and be like, you haven't presented any evidence. What the fuck are you talking about? And they just chuck them out of court. It'd be sort of like that. It'd be this weird moment where it's like, what, you're going to challenge, I don't know, Mark Ingram to be the second best running back in the for the Baltimore Ravens? Like, just get the fuck out of here. Like, what are you talking about? And yet in MMA and in boxing, there are ways to make this work, which tells you, right, that the barriers to entry are pretty low. But BC, it doesn't tell you that any old Tom, Dick, and Harry could do it. The other thing that it raises to me is why is it working in combat sports? Two reasons, I think. I wonder what you make of it. One, they don't know how to fight. They're not fighters, but they are popular. And popularity is something that the fight game always craves, one direction or the other. They've got that in spades. Check. Two, what they've got is an understanding that the internet culture, especially the one of their age, it's just troll culture. The two are completely the same. They're synonymous. There's no such thing as internet culture for them without trolling. And they have, to a degree, I wonder if you want to call it mastered, but I'll give them credit. It is certainly quite effective what they're doing. And so it's this combination of the rise and absolute solidification of troll culture as internet popularity and the use of that popularity for a particular set of ends. It's sad that the fight game is this open to it, but if it tells you that it's this open to it, it will always be this open to it.
Look, there's always been a low barrier to entry in this sport, okay? And I'm not going to lie. Have I benefited from that on a journalistic side? Maybe. I mean, it's a niche sport with no organization, and it's largely the wild, wild west. Now, I'm talking about boxing, but I'm talking about combat sports as a whole. So while that offers you an opportunity to be in a televised card with maybe not the same level of experience and paths that it took to get there in team sports, it also allows you to jump fences to make things happen. I mean, a professional troll like Charlie Zelenoff, remember that crazy guy who would go and challenge? I mean, he got Deontay Wilder to show up at a gym and fight it. It's just bizarre. This is the same thing, only the Paul brothers have this giant following, and they are trying to create an endgame in which they cash in. And I know you said they aren't fighters, and they certainly aren't boxers, even though they take it seriously. They do have the amateur wrestling background, and I'm not saying that as a... Hold on. I'm not saying that
in high school.
Hold on. I'm not saying that to justify anything. I'm saying in their minds, Luke, they believe that they could probably handle themselves to a certain degree, so it's okay to call out certain people. I don't know. This was next level. This Conor McGregor call out. I mean, they called D. Devlin a 4, Luke. He could dismiss this and not care, but these guys are super, super popular right now, and the other brother's going to fight Floyd. So if you want to have a shot in hell at getting Conor to take you seriously and get you noticed, calling him out and calling Dana out and calling them pussies, it's the right path. It's where we are in 2020, unfortunately, Luke. And I don't know if
Dana's answer was the best one. He's like, I'll send Amanda Nunes to go beat their ass. You want to get me to watch the Paul brothers fight? Have them fight Amanda Nunes. Because
Look, I hope this ends in Logan versus Rogan in a jiu-jitsu grappling match on a UFC pay-per-view card with James Toney as the referee. And I don't know. It's gross. It's weird. It's where we are. It's leading off the damn show, not because we're chasing clicks, because it's one of the more relevant stories right now in this combat news cycle in 2020, and it's bizarre. Luke, does this lead to anything, though, with Conor McGregor? Does it?
If he wants to cash in, I'll just say this, dude. If he wants to, honestly, at this point, if you are a celebrity fighter, and there's not many of them, could Gerald Meerschaert do it? Probably not. But even then, there'd be a role for him. But, if you're an A-side in combat sports, not just MMA, boxing too, and you want to make dumb money, provided there's an opportunity, by doing exhibitions, honestly, what is the difference between that and what Tyson Fury did for WWE, right? Isn't that some kind of a semi-exhibition sort of athletic acting performance? I mean, they're not totally divorced from one another. And so in that sense, if you're an A-lister out there, I can't speak for Conor. Who the hell knows what he wants at this point? But if he does, who's to say no? Especially if you can get fucking rich, or richer anyway, doing it.
If he... let's talk. If Conor fights Manny Pacquiao at the end of next year, which, by the way, is very much in play for a boxing celebrity match, they have the same management. It seems like Dana White isn't getting in the way, blah, blah, blah. Conor's probably going to get knocked out, whether it's out of exhaustion or just the fact that Pacquiao still has it as he's approaching 42. Why not make similar money and light it up with the youth by going in there and knocking out 190-pound Jake Paul, who has been boxing for like 3 hours, right? Right, Luke?
Yeah, let me just make one claim about the fighting ability here. I'll take them seriously as fighters when they do something worth taking seriously. Now, in terms of their ability to generate revenue, you better take it seriously. And I said this before, BC, and I think you would agree. I'm not saying that they're Kimbo Slice, who was literally like bare knuckling people in boat yards and shit. But in terms of what the popularity of what YouTube can bring, you can't dismiss it either. And those guys are some of the biggest stars on YouTube. So like, if they're careful about their selection of opponents, this thing ain't going away anytime soon. And if you can rope in like A-list, combat sports stars to be your dance partner and all this, like this is going to go on probably for a while. And I don't respect it in the sense that I'm a consumer, but I respect that it's a real hustle and there's a real major upside to it for the particular players involved. Fair enough. I recognize all of that. But you want me to take you seriously as a fighter, then you got to do something. These guys are above average for the average person on the street, right? That's the only real lesson we can take from all of this. They got a little bit more than that. And, listen, I'm sure wrestling in the state of Ohio is quite difficult, but your best placing being 5th doesn't mean shit to me about any kind of real athletic credentials for professional MMA. So I don't dismiss it, but I've seen, I've seen guys a lot better than that get their ass handed to them in MMA. They are low-level combat sports stunt performers. That is basically what they are. And until they want to be anything more than that, that's all they'll ever be. Albeit, BC, very, very successful ones and doing that kind of thing.
All right, two points real quick. One, your comment about the Kimbo Slice fighting on the docks. Somebody like Vice needs to come out already and just make a documentary on the Kimbo Sean Gannon fight in that Miami warehouse, please. Before all those people end up dead or in jail who witnessed it, can we just get that out there? Number two, it is SJW. It is a No J Wednesday, and it's Social Justice Wednesday. Do you give Jake any credit for the trash talk sling that he threw at Conor, calling Poirier Dustin Prober, calling Dana a bald bitch?
When you say credit, what do you mean?
D. Devlin's a 4. I mean, does he have any?
Stop saying that, for crying out loud. Someone's going to make a deep fake of you, send it to Conor, and you're going to get bus driver uppercutted the next time that there's a COVID vaccine. Will you knock that off, please?
Just send me location, please. Luke, do you give him any credit? Because it was cringeworthy. It was pretty damn cringeworthy to see that video, but he went for it. He was he was swinging for the fences, Luke. Nothing? No credit?
See, it was funny, and they put this on the graphic for Monday's episode, and they always say this dumb shit, and it always makes me chuckle. People are like, oh, Luke hates fun. No, fun is subjective. I hate, not you, BC, but the proverbial you out there. I hate your dumb version of it, right? So do I give him credit? Well, I'll give him credit in the sense that if it ends up working as a way to make himself more money, where he totally embarrasses himself and looks like a jackass, but in the end collects an enormous check, which was his whole objective to begin with, then I will certainly acknowledge that the gimmick worked. Am I a consumer of this shit? No, BC, because when people tell me I hate fun, I'm like, well, really? Do you like reading books? How about read my books? Because those are really fun to me. I have a good time. Come do snatches with me in the front yard. Let's do some clean and jerks in the front yard, because that to me is fun. You would hate that, but that doesn't make it not fun or fun. It just means it's fun for you. So, am I a consumer of low-level shitheads saying stupid things? No, I am not, but I will acknowledge it if it works.
And D is way sneakier than 4. Come on. Who writes this shit?
BC, you're going to get us killed. You got to stop. You're going to get us stabbed, and they'd be right for doing it. You know what I'm saying? I know you're feeling lonesome in that fucking Howard Johnson you're in. Are you actually in a van with like a green screen behind you, and they're putting in like a sad hotel room because it's somewhat less sad than actually being in a minivan?
Do these look like child molester van curtains to you, Luke? I mean, come on, yeah, all right.
Why do I hear like an ice cream truck sound constantly in the background? I can't quite figure it out.
I'll just sit here with my bag of huevos and keep going. All right, yeah, wow. All right.
Well, with that being said, we'll see how this goes, BC. And I'm warning people. This is why I've sort of made peace with it a little bit. Like, I don't like it, but I just can't lose sleep anymore over it. It ain't going away. The last thing I'll say is I'll give Jake a little bit of credit on this. Dillon Danis, if you ever met him in person, he's like real soft-spoken, and he doesn't have, like, when Conor comes out, he comes out like, he's peacocking and the whole bit. He's got this grandiose, larger-than-life personality. Dillon Danis doesn't have any of that. But online, he does. So you could tell he's got this sort of like delusions of grandeur, he has a sort of sense about himself that he really wants to entertain by borrowing basically Conor's stick, but he ain't Conor. So someone chucking water balloons at him who's obviously not even close to being the combative athlete that he is. I mean, Dillon Danis really is quite good, obviously, from jiu-jitsu, and we'll see what he does in MMA, but he's a real, he's a real combat athlete. Someone that self-serious and that over-the-top, someone just treating him like absolute dirt, that is, if you're going to have a gimmick, BC, that ain't the worst one to have. I'll say that.
So do you think that Dillon Danis is basically the Paul brothers, but he can also tap people out? I mean, it was
Honestly,
a little bit of the Spider-Man meme
I don't think
here.
he's as charismatic as them.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, just he's got quick fingers, though. All right, Luke, can we get away from this this absolute bullshit?
TV taught me how to dream. It was a life jacket. I don't think you can be an artist and not touch people